Time to get back to basics. I think we've all been talking about it on a regular basis. This has been a different year than the previous few years for a lot of us. It has been a rude awakening for a lot of people that this market is the way it is. It is tougher on average to get some closings, to get new clients who are committed to the process. It is a tricky time. And I think there's a really hard pill some of us have been struggling to swallow, which is, oh yeah, I got to get back to basics. Things aren't happening as easily as they were the last few years. Some of us are used to a penthouse sort of production life where things just fall into place. It's hard to think about going down to the ground floor where we have to get back to the grind. But I cannot tell you that this market is going to change anytime soon. Let me ask you this hard-hitting question I've been asking a few times lately. What if this type of market is the new norm for the next 3 to 5 years? What if this is the type of market for many years beyond that? What if this is real estate for the foreseeable future? Is your strategy to just kind of duck your head and hope 2024 is going to be better? That's your strategy. I'm really worried for you. We have to get back to basics. A lot of what I'm going to talk to you about are things you have heard before. And that's not good enough that you've heard about it before. Maybe that you've even done it once upon a time. My favorite analogy is the good old push-up. I'm hot on this analogy because I think so many of us understand what a push-up is. We understand that push-ups are a good thing if you want to get healthy. And heck, a lot of us can describe how to do a good push-up. Yeah, I know what lead gen is. I know it's good for me. And yeah, I can describe what lead gen looks and sounds like. Well, is that magically getting you more business? Are you magically getting more strength by simply knowing what a push-up is and describing a push-up? Gang, it's not enough to say, yeah, I know what this is. Yeah, I've done it a few times. Yeah, I did like a lot of push-ups like 10, 15 years ago. So I don't have to do push-ups now. And when you put it like that, isn't that ridiculous logic? Yeah, I was really good at lead gen. I got to a point where like my lead gen habits was so good. I got so much business. I didn't have any more time to do those lead gen habits. And heck, I didn't really need to do it. Yeah, that's something I used to do. That doesn't help you now. We've got to get back to some of these basics. And hopefully I can reaffirm some things I'm guessing a lot of you've heard before. Hopefully I can give you some new wrinkles, some new ways to think about those things. And hopefully you make a commitment for yourself to not just know what the push-up is, but to get down and start doing some push-ups if you want to actually succeed as a realtor in this real estate market that may be around for a long time into 2024 and beyond. And heck, if I'm wrong about that prediction, then there's nothing but a pleasant surprise and a breath of fresh air if it becomes what it was a few years back or for the last few years. I'm going to talk about these basics in a few different ways. I want to talk to you about the large scope idea of some lead gen basics. I want to get to like middle scope things to be aware of for good lead gen habits. And then we're going to get a little more small scope when we talk about, kind of the conversational tidbits when we're actually in the thick of interacting with human beings. And it is my hope that we leave time for some conversations, some follow-up questions for people to drop. So we better dive in. First and foremost, I don't know when you all have been deciding to do your lead gen, but I know that bare minimum, I hope you have a really powerful, productive morning established. I hope you have a morning focus that is untouchable. So one of the first things I talk to my clients about when I coach them is you have to protect your time blocks. You can't just react to the needs of the clients you have. You can't just answer the phone left and right. You have to create an insulated bubble that is predominantly focused on lead gen and lead follow-up. And you can set expectations with everyone you work with to get their buy-in on this. It sounds something like, hey, so-and-so client of mine, I'm not interested in being a fly by the seat of my pants realtor for you. There are some things I need to do to be a healthy realtor, and I need a chunk of time protected to do that. So I'm sharp for you the rest of the day. With your permission, can I be unreachable between 8:30 and 10 o'clock Monday through Friday? You explain the why and you seek their permission, the majority of your people are going to give you permission to ignore them. And sometimes you just have to maybe give them a reminder when they still call you. Don't answer it then, but text them back later and say, hey, sorry, I was in that time block that I told you about. I'll call you as soon as I'm done. And you're fine. You can educate other realtors, lenders, inspectors. You can let them know about this space where you're unavailable and that you'll get back to them as soon as it's done. People don't get mad about that. They get mad when they don't understand what's going on with you. When you lay out expectations and you have a plan of attack, you will mitigate the frustrations that some of you get stressed about when I tell you to ignore your phone. But you have to ignore that phone call. You have to ignore that text, that email coming in, because you need to get back to basics, which is focused lead gen time. There's no better time to do this stuff than the morning. Because the way we're wired as human beings, we have peak times of the day when we're going to be proactive as human beings, and we have a peak time of the day when we're going to be reactive as humans. And lead gen is a proactive activity. No one's really going to make you do it, per se. It's all on you to decide to do it. That requires your proactive energy. Reactive energy is answering the phone call, responding to the text, showing up to the appointment. You react to things coming to you. Our peak morning is peak proactivity energy. We just woke up, hopefully after a good night's sleep. We have a meal in us. We have an early start on having to make decisions and interact with people, which will slowly burn us out throughout the course of the day. We are fresh. That is when we need to be proactive, and we need our proactive energy to be dedicated to our lead gen. Morning time is synonymous with proactive energy we naturally have as human beings. 3 p.m. in the afternoon for the average person is the valley of productivity. You had lunch. You've been making a lot more decisions throughout the course of the day, which start to lead to some fatigue. I think right after the lunch hour on 1 p.m., you start to decline down to rock bottom of productive effort. 3 p.m. is a terrible time to try to get yourself motivated to do much of anything. What if instead of trying to get motivated to self-start some things in the afternoon, what if you made sure the morning time you were able to set some activities you just have to react to in the afternoon? Showings certainly are something that'll happen, but what about other lead gen appointments and activities you just have to then go to? We need to realign the activities we do as realtors. I invite you to take stock. Which of your responsibilities is reactive and which of them are proactive? And when do you regularly do those things? You may have to reallocate when you're doing your stuff. Proactive activities like lead gen need to happen in the morning. They can't occur in the afternoon. And certainly you should try to really funnel the reactive stuff that you just have to show up to, respond to in that afternoon. Your time zones of productivity matter, gang, and some of us are not crushing our mornings. We are wasting away precious time when we are at our most proactive, and we need to dedicate that energy to lead gen. When we sit down to do these lead gen time blocks, we should think of them as Pomodoro time blocks, 25-minute bursts, where you cut out all other distractions. You find a private space where you can't have your teammates, other people come and distract you. You turn off any notifications you do not need. You make sure you have your snack, your water with you, and you start the clock. And for 25 minutes, you have got to hit the lead gen hard and let nothing else get in your way. It is only lead gen activities. And at the end of that 25 minutes, you have to take a 5-minute break and then dive right back into another 25-minute Pomodoro. Keep going after that 5-minute break. Now, as far as I'm concerned in this season, so let's say you did create a protected time block of 8:30 to 10 o'clock. I'm fine with that being 3 Pomodoro time blocks if that's the lead gen you need to do to get to the goals, or at least a portion of the goals that you were hoping for. Now, some of you are rusty. Some of you are really rusty. And let's imagine you haven't been doing this for a few years. It is foolish of me to invite you to get back to the gym of lead gen and pick up like you did when you were in your prime peak physique for lead gen. So if you were horribly out of shape with lead gen, yeah, I'm not going to tell you to do 90 minutes straight of the stuff. You're going to say that's impossible and never even start. That's what happens to a lot of us at the gym, right? If you showed up to the gym and your fitness coach said, all right, day 1, welcome back. It's been years. Okay, do that 500-pound bench press like you used to. It's not going to go well. So if you're feeling so uncomfortable with this idea of getting back to this basic lead gen, start with 25 minutes. Do 1 Pomodoro of lead gen just to show yourself you're capable of doing it, making sure you actually can do a productive 25 minutes. And when you can do that well and know that you've seen yourself do it well, okay, let's tack on a little more weight. Let's meet you where you're at, get you comfortable with that limit of weight. When you get good at that, we'll add on more weight, maybe another Pomodoro, maybe another 15 minutes to your previous Pomodoro. It is so dangerous to try to do too much too quickly if you are out of shape. You'll think it's impossible and never try. So give yourself a little bit of a self-assessment. What do you believe you can actually do and do well? And I'm not talking about a 60 minutes where you're distracted half the time, when you're taking phone calls from other realtors, when you're taking phone calls from clients, when you're wandering around talking to team members during your hour of lead gen. No, I'm talking about a legit 25 minutes where you do nothing but. What do you believe you're capable of doing right now? Start with that. Don't push it too hard and build off of that. Sounds counterintuitive to some of you, but look, 90 minutes sounds cool, but if you're not primed to do that, it's a waste of your energy. You're never going to truly focus on it. We got to use our time well. We got to meet ourselves where we're at well to get back to this habit. I will stop here and look at a question posted. What do you do when you're doing Pomodoro lead gen? You get on a call with someone that goes for like 35 minutes. I think that's okay, because if it's a 35-minute conversation, I would say that's a legit connection. And I would hope out of 35 minutes, it means you're getting some business rolling. It's the fact that they are actually wanting to work with you. It's that they have a referral for you. Yeah, if it's a lengthy conversation, but it's actually meeting the end goal of getting some leads and business, yeah, it's okay to use that entire Pomodoro to lock down that potential of a deal, of a client. And the follow-up here, usually yes, once it ended with my sister's an agent. Well, there is some of the nitty-gritty we'll get to, which is quickly finding out their situation when it comes to working with realtors. To the person asking that, we have to make sure we get to that at the top of the conversation, not at the end. And that's just a coachable through role play practice. And again, we'll get to some of those nitty-gritty tidbits. Let's keep trucking here, gang. We have to use our time zones well. We have to do Pomodoros. We have to meet ourselves where we're at with our fitness for lead gen. Don't want you to hurt yourselves or quit before you even get started by trying to do 2 hours after having done no lead gen consistently in the morning. We have to have some mindsets going into this, some big picture mindsets. What is the batting average of a tremendous baseball player? It's like 0.300. Not 100%. I'm saying like every third time they might get a hit, there's a lot of misses, a lot of strikes. for baseball players. What is considered a fantastic baseball player is not a baseball player who hits the ball every single time, 90% of the time, 80% of the time. You get it. Getting back into lead gen is getting back into the rejection game, gang. You're going to get more and more rejection, which stings, but that is part of reaching out and trying to ride this crazy real estate wave. It is a success, a smashing success, if 3 out of 10 times you get a referral or you get someone who says, yes, I'd be interested in working with you and learning more. 3 out of 10. That means the other 7 times, straight up rejection. That's to be expected. You should expect it. You should want it. And you should know that 3 out of 10 is an amazing real estate agent. You're going to be lucky to feel 1 out of 10 times have some traction. 1 out of 10 is the ratio you should be mentally preparing for. Hopefully every 10 times there's some opportunity I get out of it. You will get rejection. Instead of being scared to death of the no, be excited to get a no. Be a no collector. See how many no's you can get in a day. Track a high score of the no's, because a no is clarity. An uncertain, a no call, a no conversation. That's like a Facebook interested. It tells you nothing if that person is coming to your party or not. It's so annoying when you have an event and 20 people say interested. You don't know what to book. You don't know how much food to get. Interested tells you nothing. It's a maybe. It's gray. It's fog. A no is concrete, and you can work with a no. So collect some no's. Get eager to find clarity. Be it an amazing yes or a no that gives you finality to where that person's at right now. Collect no's and be pleasantly surprised when you find some occasional yeses. 3 out of 10 is amazing as a realtor. Hall of Fame worthy. Temper your expectations. 1 out of 10 is great. Get comfortable with the no. One thing we got to be mindful of, gang, especially when we're talking about our sphere, is we have to make sure we practice an 80-20 rule with our sphere. There's a lot of 80-20 rules out there in real estate for a variety of things. In this case, I mean 80% of our interaction with our sphere ought to be relational, and it's only 20% that's a real estate ask. It sucks to reach out to someone out of the blue that you haven't talked to in years, and the first thing you're really doing is just asking for business. We all know that. Darn near all of us don't want to be that. And people give referrals to those they have a relationship with. So we got to make sure we practice that. In the game of following up with your sphere, of getting back to having a good relationship with your sphere, I don't ask you to reach out during lead gen and always just ask for referrals and talk about real estate. No, you got to get back to your relationship, how you know them, and find out what's going on with them, reconnect with them, care about them. And it's every 5th time you reach out to that person, you dare ask for a referral, that you ask if they need any real estate help. That's easier to do, built upon the foundation of 80% or 4 of the previous times you talked to them was strictly about your relationship with them and not real estate. So we got to live by that 80-20 mindset for our lead gen approach. So we got collecting no's. We got the 80-20 approach for our lead gen. That's 80% relational to 20% real estate for the reason we're talking to them. And then we have to remember 4 disciplines of execution, gang. 4 disciplines of execution is a great model. I think, again, a lot of you have heard about this, maybe not all of you. But we got to know we have a wildly important goal. That's the first discipline, to know your wildly important goal. In that case, it's your goal you have for yourself as a realtor. How many closings would you like? We know our lead measures versus our lag measures, right? Our lead versus lag measures. Got to be careful with my very North Dakotan accent when I say lag. Your lead measures and your lag measures. Lag measures are when we say, I want to close 30 houses this year. Or I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to get healthier and shed 10 pounds at the gym. Those are all lag measures. Just talking about them doesn't do anything for you. I don't want to hear about your goals, your readjusted goals for how many closings you want, how many pended transactions you want. I want us to talk about your lead measures. Lead measures are the things you can actually control. You can act upon them, and that's what will push that lag measure. For shedding 10 pounds, a lead measure showing up to the gym and running on the treadmill, lifting weights. It's watching what you eat. It's eating healthier, right? You can control those things day in and day out. For your lead gen to actually get to a closing or to 30 closings, you don't just talk about 30 closings. We need to talk about how many conversations do you need to have in a week? How many conversations do you need to have in a week that are real estate focused? And you believe that that will lead to a referral to a legit client. That's a lead measure. Let's forget the 30 closings in a year and let's simplify our business to saying, did I have 10 real estate conversations this week or not? Hopefully if I have 10 of them, one of them will lead to a referral. Or one of those people I talk to is interested in getting help from me. We could simplify our business simply to say, did you have 10 real estate conversations this week or not? By that, again, I mean, you talk to them about the buying or listing process because they have some interest, or you got a referral from someone because you asked. Asking for referrals a real estate conversation. Talking to someone about their interest in real estate is a conversation that would account for those 10 types. Maybe you need to simplify your business to just a few lead measures you need to track weekly on a scorecard, on a scoreboard. You should make it for yourself. I stand strongly, words are hard, I strongly stand by the idea that you should make your own scorecard. When you design it for yourself, you have put the time and energy into it, you will be more invested in it, is what I believe. I've seen teams try to roll out scorecards for everyone, and it's been iffy at best. And I often see the reason is because the agent isn't bought into the provided massive scorecard. Look, that scorecard would do you good if you used it, but apparently for a lot of realtors, if they didn't have skin in that game, they don't remember to use it. If you care about actually succeeding as a realtor, you need a scoreboard where you track how you're doing with those lead measures. Good businesses know their numbers, and you are your own business owner as a realtor. Do you know your numbers right now? If you do not, that is a back to basics necessity. You got to know your freaking numbers. How many attempts does it take before you actually have a real estate conversation? How many real estate conversations on average do you have to have in a week before a referral actually comes to you? If you don't know those numbers, time to get back to basics. You got to track that stuff on a scoreboard. Make it for yourself. Use it for yourself. At the bare minimum, you should track how many attempts you have to make to have conversations with people. Then you should gauge how many actual real estate conversations you have. And then I dare say, here's a third one, you should track how many new connections you make in a week. Because you can only do so much massaging your own sphere. Are you actually growing your sphere by meeting new people at open houses, by networking in the community? Certainly, a lot of you have the opportunity to access some team-wide lead pools to dig through, and certainly you can use that as well for all of this tracking. Man, those three metrics, are you actually meeting new people, interacting with them? Are you tracking how many real estate conversations you have in a week? And how many attempts does it take you to actually have those conversations? I often have people get the homework when they start to have 100 attempted interactions in the course of a week. Out of that, can you make sure you had 10 real estate conversations? And can you have met at least 3 new people? That's my default I'll give brand new agents because we don't know their personal bests because they haven't started yet. You need to know those numbers for yourself, and you need to track, did I actually do that this week or not? And you need to keep a compelling scoreboard. That's the third discipline, 4 disciplines of execution. That's where you log your lead measures, your target versus your actual. This last part of the 4 disciplines of execution is so crucial. And so many of you have heard of this, and so many of you don't freaking do it. Time to get back to basics. You need a cadence of accountability. A cadence of accountability is that consistent rhythm of accountability. We cannot trust ourselves with ourselves. We will make excuses for ourselves. We will justify not doing lead gen for ourselves. We will trick ourselves so often as human beings. We are the hardest people to get to convince ourselves to do anything for ourselves. We are so hard to convince to get on board with something we'd like us to do. So take it out of your hands. So you need to find an accountability partner who you have to check in with outside of yourself. And yeah, some of you get uncomfortable. Some of you say, I hate that. Good. This is broccoli talk. Don't really love the taste of broccoli, but we all agree it's good for you. I don't care if you don't like it. If you actually want to succeed as a realtor, here's what you have to do. You need someone else who looks at that scoreboard with you. They can understand the scoreboard, so they can look at you and say, yeah, you're not doing the numbers you need to actually succeed. What are you going to do about that? And they just look you in the eye and they're holding you accountable to what you said you want for yourself. No one made you get into real estate. No one made you pick the goals you want for yourself. At least I hope not. If you were dragged into this industry kicking and screaming, you don't want to be in it, get out. But you chose to get into this industry. You chose to have a goal. You chose to want to make a certain amount for you and your family. So let someone else hold you accountable to that and look you in the eye and say, you're not doing what you said you wanted to do. What are you going to do about it next week to get back on track? What are you going to do to keep yourself on track? Hey, you're going above and beyond. What are you going to do to keep going above and beyond? And you have to answer to that person what you plan to do next week. So the next time you meet, I would argue once a week you check in with them. They will then follow up and see, did you follow through? Is your scoreboard updated? And don't fudge your numbers. Some of us fudge our numbers because we think we have to look good because the scorecard's a thing that's public, it's viewable. So I better make sure the numbers look good. That's bull crap. You're sabotaging your business. Don't fudge the numbers because you want them to look good. Keep the numbers accurate and honest so someone else can help you fix where you're falling short. Don't fudge your numbers. Put them down honestly and let accountability help you. You need that cadence of accountability. Someone else meeting with you to look over those numbers and hold you honest to who you are and what you said you wanted. Boy, we'll get in our own way. Answering to someone else keeps us honest. So let's do a quick assessment here, gang. Can you say that you have a great morning figured out for lead gen? With time blocks, it's happening in that morning space, it's protected. Can you say you have this scorecard? Do you have your lead measures identified? How much you need to do in a week's time? And are you tracking it right now? Are you prepared to collect no's, knowing that rejection is going to be a part of this? Are you ready to do the 80-20 mindset for reaching out to your sphere? Food for thought for you. If you're not going to do those things, if you're not going to apply those mindsets and those exercises, those activities, you are not focusing on the basics, and this is a problem for you and your business going forward. Let's keep rocking here. So you have attempts, you have those real estate conversations, you have new connections you should track. I know that a lot of you, again, have access to some sort of company lead source or some pool of leads. And I think that's a great place to dig through. I'm going to caution you, though. I wonder if that pool isn't going to get harder. The average person, when they hear about the real estate market, it's not good. They're hearing from friends, from family, from news sources. They're hearing from online that it's a brutal market, that the interest rate is higher than it had been, inventory is low, insert all these other things they hear about the market that aren't favorable. I think for the average person's opinion, this real estate thing's gotten worse. It's gotten harder. Reaching out to all of these lead sources, those are cold leads, right? You have no relationship with them. And it takes some time to simply warm them up to even want to listen to you. I think these cold leads have gone from cold to frigid. they're all the more not interested in getting involved in real estate. So when a realtor reaches out to them, their guard is up even stronger than before because of what they're hearing about the real estate market. I'm not saying that you should stop going through those great assets that a team can provide you. I'm saying it's probably going to get harder. There's a great line an agent named a week or two ago, which is, it feels like in this market, you have to do 50% more work to hit 20% less than you did last year. You're going to have to work harder, and that's just a back to basics fact. And I especially think you're going to have to work harder when you're reaching out to cold leads. They're even colder. They'll take longer to get a hold of, longer to warm up to actually considering working with you. Just be aware of that, gang. Where I think opportunity still lies is your sphere. Your sphere are people who know you, who have known you. That is a warmer group than all of these lead databases. People trust those they know. So you could get through to people a little more easily if they're connected to your sphere, if they're a part of your sphere. Less effort and energy to get on board with the opportunities that may be out there in the real estate market. So how have you been doing at giving attention to your sphere? Time to get back to basics. A lot of you realtors out there, when you started out, you got success from where, first and foremost? Your first few deals were often sphere. People who knew you before you became a realtor, trusting you because of the relationship that they have with you. We need to get back to basics. We need to get better at mastering our sphere, growing our sphere, serving our sphere. That should be a priority, I believe. So who the heck is your sphere? Could you refine that sphere group a little more? It's a big, vague thing. Can you break your sphere up to identify the groups of people that you have in your life? Past, present, and future. Yeah, part of my life is my fraternity. I should lean into my fraternity more. Oh, but not just fraternity. I have alumni like myself. I have the parents of alumni that I know. There are the parents of the kids who are currently in college and a part of that fraternity. Holy cow, there's a lot going on with my sphere when I stop and get more specific with who is my sphere. The more specific you get with your sphere, the better you can act upon it. When I tell you to go lead gen your sphere, what does that even mean? When I tell you to reach out to your past high school soccer teammates to appreciate them, to express some gratitude, that's more actionable. I say your past high school soccer teammates, that's a short list of names that come to your mind that you can act upon, right? So maybe you need to polish up your sphere list, getting back to these basics. You need to polish it, get more specific with it, and act upon those specific groups with more intention. And if you're not satisfied by the size of your sphere, good. You should be growing your sphere regularly. So you should identify what groups of people would you like to meet. Maybe you want to get back in shape and you want to join some sort of intramural or rec league for some sort of sport. Great. Target that as a future sphere group you want to say you have. Now you got some great lead gen direction for next week. I got to go sign up for one of these things. I got to find one. I got to start meeting people. Grow your sphere. And then how are you going to target it, right? Who are some of the most important people in your sphere? And have you been good about really pouring into them? Here's some food for thought for you. Have you gone back and tracked where deals came from in the past for you? Do you know your numbers in that regard? Do you know that 40% of your closings of the last 5 years you've been a real estate agent came from open houses? Do you know that 30% of them came from your sphere? But when you get more specific, it actually came from 2 groups of people that are a part of your sphere, really accounted for the lion's share of your sphere deals. Do you know your numbers? You should go back and try to track all the closings you've had as a realtor and identify some trends. Because that's real-time data for what your bread and butter has been, instead of speculating where you're going to go with no proof. You might discover that, yeah, open houses have been your jam and you need to try to lean back into that. You again may discover that there's parts of your sphere that have been huge for you in the past and you've since been neglecting it. Time to get back to it. Know your numbers. That data might help you focus your energy when it's time to do this lead gen. Now, we have to practice, right? If you have not been practicing, oh my goodness, time to get back to practice. And of course, I mean that wonderful word role play. You need to practice how you have conversations with strangers. You need to practice how you have referrals that come to you. If you are not doing role play multiple times a week in this season, you are selling yourself short. Because once again, yeah, you know what a conversation should sound like. Yeah, you know what a good push-up looks like. Doesn't matter. You got to get down and start doing some push-ups. You need to show up and not just say, yeah, I understand how to ask for a referral. No, you need to practice asking for a referral. It's a different thing than understanding it. Schedule at least 3 role plays a week if you have not been doing so already. We've got to sharpen our sword in how we connect with people. We need to know that we have to practice injecting Ford into a conversation, right? We have to inject the family, the occupation, the recreation, and dreams into connecting with people. We have to prioritize not just talking real estate, we have to prioritize building a relationship. So anytime you meet with someone, don't just jump to the real estate thing. Spend time out, inject some Ford, and learn who the heck they are and what they care about. If you already know them, spend time reconnecting and discussing those things they care about. And we get good at that by using tell me more and going 3 deep. How's your day been? Good. Well, what's been good about your day? Oh, it's homecoming week for you and your alma mater. That's great. What, like, is there some sort of big activity coming up here? Do you tailgate? Oh, you have a tailgate spot. Awesome. Well, what kind of food is going to be there? That's telling me more and going 3 deep, right? I stayed on that train of thought and I went 3 layers deep with follow-up questions. That's how you build rapport. That's how you gain connection, because people will work with those who they feel like they know, or more so people who they feel like know them. For warming up leads, it's to be relational, build connections that are on a relational level, not a real estate level. And it starts with injecting Ford as soon as you can and staying on Ford topics as long as possible with some tell me more in 3 deep. And here's the cold hard reality, gang. A lot of us say, oh, people don't want to talk about that stuff. Bull crap. If we believe in the DISC assessment, I's and S's, those are the relational part of the DISC assessment. D's and C's are the task-oriented. It's D's and C's who don't want to talk about this stuff very much. They don't want to talk about relational things. But guess what? Those who are a D first and foremost is 3% of people, and those who are a C first and foremost are 17% of people. Add that math together, only 20% of people first and foremost are task-oriented, meaning they really don't value relational Ford-based conversations. 1 out of 5 people aren't going to want to have this conversation. You got 11% of people who are high I's and 69% of people who are high S's. That's 80% of people who first and foremost care about relationships before they care about getting the job done. 4 out of 5 people care about relationships first. So are you using that understanding to truly build a relationship, not just cut to the real estate matter at hand? If you go to real estate too quickly, it is a stale professional relationship that it remains cold, and they may never warm up to working with you. People are influenced by those they feel like they have a relationship with. You got to use that. Ford, tell me more, 3 deep, build rapport, not about the real estate, but about who they are as people. We got to practice role playing that, because you all heard that and you say, yeah, it makes sense. If I got one of you on here right now to role play with me, yeah, I'm going to say, oh, push-ups are kind of hard. I forgot that it's not that easy. I got to adjust my form. I got to get more reps in. I can't do as many as I thought I could. We got to practice this stuff. People are only influenced when they feel like we understand them and where they're at. We also got to use Tell Me More in 3 Deep to learn their opinion of the real estate market. We use Ford, we learn who they are as people. When you transition to real estate, it's not with some gimmick, some program you can offer them. It's learning how they feel about the real estate market, what they are hesitating about in the real estate market. You got to ask questions, get a full picture of their vision of the real estate market and all their concerns, frustrations, limitations. Only when you feel like you have a full picture of their opinion of real estate do you have an opportunity to repeat that back to them in summary, and hopefully they respond with "that's right." When you repeat back their summary of how they see the real estate market and they say "that's right," only when that happens do they tell you the green light or give you the green light that you get me. And when they feel like you get them, they are more apt to listen to you as you try to tweak their vision of how this real estate market is and how tough it is. Don't try to change their mind before you've captured their vision. You've heard it from them, repeated it back to them. Only then can you try to adjust what they think the real estate market has going on and maybe change their mind about what's going on, see some opportunity, and decide to sit down and work with you. Well, only after you have their vision, they say, "Yeah, you get what we're seeing," might you say something like, "There's actually some programs lenders are offering to help make that interest rate not so scary." I mean, would you have any opposition to meeting with a lender to see what that's all about? Only after you've captured their vision of things. One of the best ways to ask is, "Yeah, would you be against if I? Would you be opposed to this opportunity? Would you be against it if I set up an automated search for you?" Just so you can see what truly is out there in the market. I know you feel like there isn't much out there. Would you be opposed to seeing that for yourself with a customized search instead of surfing Zillow? Would you be opposed to "are you against" language is something we have to practice in role play time and time again. Another way for this conversation to go, every fifth time you reach out to someone, 4 times has been all relational, talking to them about what they care about. Every fifth time, "Hey, so-and-so, it's Connor. Hey, I'm reaching out, wondering if you'd be opposed to helping me out. This year is a heck of a year. I have big goals. Wonder if you'd be against me reaching out to you from time to time and asking if you have anyone who could use help buying or selling." That's simple. Don't overthink it. Don't create a mountain in your head. Wonder if you'd be opposed to helping me out. I have a question coming here. Susan said, "Why not go positive with it versus negative? Would you be open to having a conversation with a lender? Would you be open to me setting up a search for you, et cetera, et cetera?" Great question. The answer is human psychology in the sense of autonomy. This is really sneaky psychology. People, more than anything, want their autonomy preserved. That sense of freedom, that ability to choose what you want to do. And it has been confirmed through a lot of studies that when we ask questions that get yeses out of people, it can accidentally attack their autonomy because they feel like they're supposed to say yes to you. And them saying yes to you is them linking themselves up to you, aka their autonomy has been attacked. They're kind of saying yes because that's what you wanted me to say. We don't want yeses, we want nos. When you say no to something, it's often because you're preserving your autonomy. Saying yes is often you agreeing to go along with something, which is an absence of autonomy. And resentment slowly builds up when we feel like our autonomy is consistently being attacked, when we feel like we're supposed to say yes. Even when we say yes to like where someone else picked to go for lunch, there's a little bit of our autonomy that got attacked there. When you get people to say no, it often is in the name of them preserving their autonomy. And people feel better when they have their autonomy preserved. So yeah, once you want to sit down with a lender and find out for yourself, well, I know I'm supposed to say yes to them. Feel like they're kind of getting me to say yes to this and agree to this. That is a sneaky attack on their autonomy, which leads to some resentment. And slowly, for a lot of people, they will start to stop listening to you, to not be influenced by you. It's subconscious, it's sneaky. I'm trying to summarize a very complicated concept of human behavior right now. When I say, "Would you be opposed to this?" and they say no. No, in that regard, is preserved autonomy. No, I'm not opposed to that. I have the freedom to decide. And I'm telling you, no, I'm not opposed to doing something like that. So there's the trickiness there. And that's a great question you asked. And that's something we role play and unpack. on a consistent basis with a lot of people I work with. No's, preserve autonomy. Yeses, they feel like they're giving up autonomy. We have to role play, gang. We have to practice 4 to tell me more in 3 deep. We have to get comfortable with asking for referrals, honing how that sounds coming out of our mouths. Practice, practice, practice. We need to focus our lead gen efforts. We need to know the numbers we're tracking. We need to practice. We need to use our sphere. And look, there's no magic to it. I'm sorry if any of you were showing up to this thing looking for some magic silver bullet. The magic is just getting down and doing those push-ups with consistency. That's how you get stronger. That's how you get better. You have to choose to log these things day in and day out, track them, show up for them, practice. That's what's going to take in this market. I want to make sure I leave time for more questions, gang. I tried to move quick. I tried to be somewhat concise as best I could. What questions do you all have? As I wait for any questions to show up, here's one thing I need you all to know. Logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. Logically, a lot of this makes sense. It's not good enough. Logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. The fact is, as human beings, we're wired to pursue pleasure. You're going to want to do the easier, more enjoyable thing. And everything I covered with you isn't really that enjoyable. That's what you have going on against yourself. We are very complicated as people. We get in our own way. This logically makes sense, but the emotional side of me is going to want to go sit on the couch and turn on Netflix. That's more pleasant, more comfortable, more enjoyable. You need to surround yourself with some tactics to help yourself from yourself. One of those is that external accountability you need in place. You also have to consider things I call activity tethers. What are things you greatly enjoy, and how can you marry that to these basics? Be it some sort of reward system, be it some sort of activity you can do simultaneously while you're doing the thing you can't stand doing. An example I give, and I know some of you've heard this before, but I'll say it again because back to basics, and until you've checked off that you're actually doing the basics, I'll keep talking about them. I hate going through emails. I hate clearing out emails. I logically know I should respond in a timely manner and clear up my inbox. That logic is not enough for me. I love podcasts. Oh, I love listening to podcasts. There's the emotion in there. I would love more often than not to just throw in my earbuds and just listen to a podcast. Activity tethering is marrying those two things together, right? So now podcast time is email clearing time. And I marry those together. I don't care if you have to watch Netflix to get yourself to sit down and do a freaking lead gen Pomodoro, so be it if that's what you enjoy. Marry the enjoyable with the not so enjoyable that you logically know you should be doing. Get freaking going. Do these activities with a friend, with a colleague. So there's that extra accountability. Maybe work out some sort of game with them. It can be so valuable to take all these logical things and make it a game with stakes, with rewards, with fun little rules. So it's not so dry and dull. Try and get the emotion in you a little more fired up and excited about doing this stuff. Logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. So how are you going to inject some emotion into this? Doesn't have to be all fun. If some of you don't like the fun sounding stuff, which I hope you would. That's how I'm wired. Some of you maybe just have to write down what it could mean for you and your family if you actually do this. And that emotional statement is something you have to read before you dive into a lead gen time block. Or if you want to get really tough on yourself, because that's what it takes to motivate you, write down what will happen if you don't do this stuff for you and your family. Now, that's not how I like to prescribe to this stuff. But whatever it's going to take to get you emotionally invested in doing it and showing up, that's activity tethering. Mindset prompts. Tell yourself who you are, what you ought to be. I will be a lead gen master. I show up to role play with consistency. I will not let outside noise distract me. whatever identities you need to write down and repeat to yourself. Self-affirm a new identity to do this stuff. Get your emotion invested in the logic I've been sharing with you. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. Get fired up. Find ways to do that on a consistent basis. Let external human beings hold you accountable. Otherwise, this is maybe going to last, the next couple of days for you, and you'll revert back to, the status quo, which is more comfortable for you. It's more pleasurable in that regard, and that's the thing you're wrestling with is yourself. Opinion of farming. Opinion of farming. Wendy, if I understand what you're saying there, circle prospecting, going around and looking for lead sources online, that type of stuff. I think you could do it. I think you got to try all things. I believe that you're just going to have a low success rate. I think, again, cold relationships, people who you have no connection to, are going to be only colder in this market. There's way less opportunities people are hearing about in real estate. So they're just going to be a colder lead to try to get connected. And that's where I really feel like we could all lean into our sphere more to help our business. Because those are warm relationships we should lean into harder than all these cold lead sources. I'm not saying stop, but let's have our expectations maybe met more, that it's, in my opinion, only going to get harder. 50% more work to maybe still only do 80% of what you did last year with things like that. And to get more specific, do you think farming with mailers is worth it? If you have the budget for it, I guess I'm not opposed. I think you want to prepare for like a response rate of maybe 1%. Now, that's not like a universal statistic. It depends on the market. But I've always operated with prepare for a 1% response rate from mailers. And I say response rate doesn't mean the response is yes, come list my house. It might be, no, we're not doing this. If you have to tighten the budget, I would probably invest the money in some other things. Maybe ways to serve past clients and invest in past clients and invest in your sphere is what I would lean towards. I think those warm relationships, especially past clients, are way more valuable than spending money on trying to reach new people in mass with like a 1% response rate on average. If you're more than that, Susan says, thoughts on going after probate or building up a network to work foreclosures as those increase? Yeah. I think when you think of sphere, past, present, and future, who's your future sphere? And maybe you say, foreclosures are going to be a thing. I need to start building those relationships or making those connections or getting into that mindset and world now. Absolutely. I think going after probate, yeah, same mindset. I think what's so crucial here is we got to get specific, right? It's not, I got to do more deals. It's, I'm going to be more focused on the foreclosure game. Okay, that's specific. Hey, I love bowling. I have a past client of mine. I love bowling. I'm going to focus on the bowling league. And heck, this person gets, I think, at least 3 or 4 closings from their bowling league. It's been a huge slice of their past business. His plan is to lean into that lead source more deeply right now in these tough times. So there's a lot of ways you can get more specific to say, where do I plan on getting business from? And get more concise with the pool of people you're going to connect with. People always pass away, not being an ambulance chaser though, sure. I mean, that's heavy, but it is the reality of things to be mindful of. I think we can be okay with that being a reality as long as we're respectful and we approach it with a great service, a great headspace. But get specific. Where is this business going to come from for you? If it's a broad brushstroke of a plan, you're in trouble. Get more specific with who's your sphere. What are you going to target? What are you going to invest your energy into? Other questions here. How about advertising and spending money on Google My Business page, PPC, and Google services? If you have the budget for it, I'm not opposed to it, but I think what you should do before you pull the trigger on that is you should gauge what kind of letter grade would you give your past client service plan? What letter grade would you give your sphere service plan? Because I would argue that I think it's equally valuable to put that money into a few past client appreciation events or a few poignant client gifts or lunches and coffees with them. I would argue that that's more valuable. Can you imagine a world where, let's say you've been in real estate for 5 years, and let's say you have around 100 past clients. What if a fifth of those past clients gave you 1 to 2 referrals in a year? What could that do for your business? Again, these are people with a warm relationship. They know you, they've seen what you can do. What if you put some time, energy, and money into serving that pool of people more effectively to increase the referrals you get from them? 20 referrals from past clients, 1 out of 5 of your past clients. Holy cow, how many of you can say you have that going for you? Could you invest money into something like that? And that's something else I can talk about, and we'll talk about, is the past client service plan. And yeah, what are you doing to invest in your sphere, to organize your sphere, to gather your sphere? If you're not spending much on that, I think you want to take a hard look at that before you spend more money on the PPC. That's my opinion. But again, I would wager, and I don't have cold hard data, I would wager that some of these lead sources are just getting cooler, colder. More time and energy, 50% more effort to turn a cold lead into a warm lead. So just keep that in mind. Other questions in here? Do you do client appreciation events? Yes. Hatch Realty does client appreciation events, regardless of the scope and scale of your team. Now, of course, barring you're a brand new agent who's trying to just get your first deal, I suppose that's the exception. As an agent who has past clients, I think you should make sure, if your team isn't doing it, you should be doing at least 1, maybe 2 client appreciation events on your own. Now, can you find some industry partnerships for them to offset costs? Can you have a lender you work with, a contractor, right? Can you find people to help fund your own events? I would hope so. If not, great lead gen opportunity to build stronger relationships like that with those in the lending and all those other industries for referrals. You should be doing client appreciation events team-wide. And even if there's team-wide ones, I think you should hone in on your own clients and do some. Study some trends. Maybe you live in Minnesota and you realize that 75% of your past clients are Vikings fans. What could you do with that for your own past client appreciation event? Another question here. I know we're almost at our time. As we have to work harder to survive in this market, how do we still keep the balance in your personal life in check? Ethan, I think mastery of those time zones is all the more important. You have to crush your morning. You have to make your morning untouchable from outside noise, so you can focus on crushing lead gen and follow-up to feel better that you knew you hit your numbers you know you need to hit to hopefully get referrals. And then your afternoon is responding with showings and appointments if you have them going on. You can also set expectations with clients to say, hey, there's a couple nights in a week where I'm going to be unreachable between 5 and 8:30. That's when I'm focused with my family. And I hope you can respect that. And so many clients respect and appreciate that when you set that expectation. And to make sure they're on board with that, you sometimes can define what a true fire is that has to be put out in that moment. And the only example I can think of that's an actual fire where you'd have to respond to them the moment they're reaching out to you is when the other realtor says, hey, we're going to review offers in the next hour. Everything else can wait. So if needed, you and your clients can unpack what a true fire is defined as. Because look, you know when the inspection deadline is. Showings rarely are able to be scheduled in the next 30 minutes. Most of the time, people need a few hours heads up anyway. You know the timelines on just about anything. The only fire I know of is when someone says, hey, we're reviewing offers. And that's when you agree on that being the exception is, hey, we're writing an offer, and I found out that they're reviewing soon. So you can create time for yourself there, Ethan, to have time to breathe. But make sure you're crushing that morning to be more productive with the time you have in the day. Don't let distractions pull you in 20 different directions and you're pissing away your most precious resource, which is your time. Maximize your time. Use those time zones appropriately as well. Gang, we're a minute over our time here. A lot of good questions flying in here. I think I answered all the questions I can see. It's back to basics. I think you can spend money on those pay-per-clicks and those lead sources, but I would again say, what are you doing for your sphere, for your past clients first and foremost? Get back to lead gen morning habits. Get back to practicing. Go do some actual push-ups. That's what it's going to take. Thank you all for the time. Until next time, good luck to you all.